Good morning, everybody, and welcome. My name is Daniele Piomelli. I am the director of the Center for the Study of Cannabis, along with Professor Robert Solomon, who is sitting right there. Again, good morning. We are very glad to see such a wonderful turnout for an event that the Center has long thought necessary and only now able to organize. A few words about the Center and then on the event. I'm scheduled to speak for 15 minutes, but no worries, I won't. We gave a little leeway because we have a politician coming, Congresswoman Katie Porter, and politicians tend to need a little accommodation when it comes to timing. So we want to make sure that she could speak without interrupting anybody else. The Center for the Study of Cannabis was created about a year and a half ago. Initiative that actually was rooted in the fact that the University of California has worked on, Irvine, has worked on cannabis and cannabinoids for the last 20 years. We have been, if not leaders, certainly part of the leading group of investigators in cannabinoid research, really since the field was started. And about 2 years ago, it became clear that it was necessary for us to take a step up and create a structure that would allow us to reach out of basic sciences and clinical sciences, medicine, to other aspects of society. And that's why we teamed up with the UCI School of Law and Professor Solomon to create a center that has more of a multidisciplinary mission, not just medical research, but also research on policy and the law. One reason for this is that cannabis is one of the topics, one of the subject matters that really require this multidisciplinary view. Each of us look at the topic from different perspectives, but it's really a multifaceted problem. And as such, it can only really be tackled by a multidisciplinary approach. I think today will prove this to be the case, because only looking at the issue of cannabis and driving from a legal standpoint, from looking at what is the current legal landscape for other drugs, for example, alcohol, and trying to use that landscape to model a landscape on cannabis, that is probably going to be a wrong approach. Science is telling us, medicine is telling us that something else is needed, and our distinguished speaker today will certainly elaborate on that more than I ever could. So the topic today really is a multidisciplinary topic, and Dr. Eustace, Marilyn Eustace, who is our speaker, keynote speaker, represents that, I think, better than anybody else. She has spearheaded and really moved the needle of medicine on the complex issue of cannabis and driving. If I have to point out one of her many contributions that certainly has stuck with me as a scientist and has contributed me to understand the difficulty of the problem, is her work connecting the concentrations of THC in blood to driving impairment. Her work showed, and I think she will probably have a slide on this, I'm not sure, I don't want to second guess her, but her work has shown that you can have substantial impairment even though you have very low levels of THC in blood, and you can have, on the other hand, relatively small impairment with very high levels of THC. Her hysteretic curve, which requires a couple of minutes just to look at, but once you see it, is brilliantly explained. I'm sure she will go over it. Really demonstrates that. And that is really fundamental, because if we are trying to anchor our strategies toward assessing impairment in cannabis exposed drivers, and we used as a as a model, the alcohol model, we would be having a real problem, because in the case of alcohol, of course, concentrations in blood and impairment are directly proportional. In the case of cannabis, they are not. They are not. The issue is a lot more complex than I have even put it now, but I hope that after, of course, after Dr. Husti's presentation, we'll know a lot more and we'll have a much better understanding, but also we will have a roundtable with experts from our UC sister campus down in San Diego, Dr. Fitzgerald, with experts like Dr. Jennifer Harman and Dr. Brent Huang, who will be taking questions from the group as well as from me. I will try to think something intelligent to ask. We'll try to dive into this a little bit more. What I'd like to accomplish at the end of this, if we came out of, all of us came out of this with a little doubt that what we have right now as a way of assessing cannabis impairment is the way to do it, and the desire to look into this a little bit more, to finding together better way of doing this, ways that consider the experience of our law enforcement officers on one hand, who are on the ground and they are daily taking care of this business, our medical scientists who tell us that certain things have to be taken into consideration before we can draw a conclusion that an individual is impaired cognitively and from a motor perspective because of the use of cannabis. So our speaker, I invite her to please come to the podium and give her a round of applause. Dr. Eustace.